All right, estimates. This is a tricky phase when it comes to this business, especially for my niche, but I'll use mine and how I do things as an example. Just remember, everybody does things differently. I'm just giving you my angle, all right? When I write up an estimate, it goes a little something like this. If possible, I like to go to the property and walk through the punch list of things you want done with you. I don't like that over the phone stuff. I'll send you some kind of bad angle picture. It doesn't help me at all, really. And then ask me for what it's going to cost. It's just maybe for some little things, but if you got more than one thing, yeah. I do this for many reasons other than to look at what you want done, especially if you're a new client. Because I got to feel you out, just like you got to feel me out. So this is not just me doing an estimate for the scope of work, but it's kind of part of the interview phase, which I'll cover that in more detail in another video. But since my business is based on getting it done for the lowest possible cost without ripping myself off, and I use a lot of communication and transparency to ensure that I can meet your expectations and budget, because sometimes it's hard to even figure out someone's budget. They don't want to tell you because they think you're just going to go to the highest thing. And in some cases, that's true. Like I said, I'm telling you how I operate. But part of my pricing is based on you. I need to talk your ear off and ask you a bunch of questions to figure out exactly what you want done. So you need to know already what you want done, at least a pretty good idea. I need to measure your decisiveness. Am I going to end up being your designer as well? Because that takes thought and time too. The level of quality you're going for. I'm looking for eye contact because it reveals intention. I'm looking for attitude, good and bad. But if it's bad, I might need to deal with that later on. I need to account for it. Can you even afford it? So you can tell a lot about someone when you're walking around their place or just meeting them in person versus over the phone or messaging online. And so if you saved up your pennies and you think that it should cost just this amount and I tack on another $500, can you swing it? Because that can easily happen. And all this is calculated in. So yeah, I and many other businesses will give you a higher bid if we get red flags that you're going to give us a problem later. Because while the work might be straightforward, many issues can arise from the client themselves. And a good example of this, I've seen it. It's not happened to me because I'm going to lock in your decision. But a client will give a renovator free license to choose the color of the carpet or something. This should let you gauge their experience, because someone with experience will never just go pick a carpet color for you, ever, no matter what you say. But I've seen it happen just so when you get hopefully you don't install it first, but they'll give you a free license just to come back and say they don't like it, redo it. People do that, yes. But all that stuff is another topic that I'll cover in another video. I just want to let you know some of the reasons why you might get an insanely high bid. It's the red flags. Maybe they're busy enough and are just seeing if you bite on a high price because they don't really need your work. But hey, if you're going to pay a whole lot of money, why not? Sometimes the company is just so big, they got so much overhead that is the price. They got to stay in business. And to stay in business, especially if it's like a slow season, they might need to jack it up just to keep everybody working, keep the business open. Now, when I'm looking around the house, while I'm looking at what you say you want done, I also need to survey the all-around conditions of the area to be worked on, including the condition of the entire house. I need to wrap my head around all of it. This is to gauge how many possible / common surprises I might find. For instance, if you want a toilet replaced, I'm not just pricing it on how long it takes me to install a new toilet. I'm looking at the old toilet too. Is the base sealed, or was the base sealed? The condition of the flooring, condition of the security bolts, mold on the wall behind it, etc. I got to account for all of it because I can't give you a low price and then come in and the floor underneath it's all eaten up or the flange is just crumbled. That adds a lot more money onto it. So I got to kind of guess if I'm going to run into that. If not, if I just give you a standard price, it's going to be high. I'm going to be like $500. And you're just going to take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Then I got to estimate how much all the different parts and supplies will cost, how much time it will take me to deliver those, get it done, phone time, drive times. A lot of people like to call me all weekend. I got to, like that's, unless it's really important. Because if they're doing, yeah, anyways. Drive times. And I'll usually add 20 to 30% cushion on top of all that, just because when I'm doing lower budget estimates, it's always too low. And while I want to price it at the amount the client will accept, I need to be realistic and account for the fact that my guess is going to be a little lower than how fast and easy I want to get it done in my mind. You know what I'm saying? And you got taxes and all sorts of other stuff. But it is hard with multifaceted projects too. You gotta let a lot of things run through your head and plan. And there's planning too. I'm sitting there constantly planning in my head on my off time. Like if I got something big coming up the next day, I'm running it through. I'm figuring stuff out. I'm coming up with answers. It's not just I drive there and then I turn it on and then I figure it out when I get there. Do I need to get something before I go there? Like all that kind of stuff. I also need to add in communication. It's a big one. Most of my clients like to be highly involved in the project. They like to actually plan it with me. So sometimes if you can't make up your mind beforehand, some people need a little bit of, because I'm around it so much, I know design and everything else, but they want to go through it with me. As we're going through the whole project sometimes, if it's like a big reno. Then there's change orders, consistent updates and explanations of everything. Then you got your basic chit chat. Some people are talkers like me. And all this talking, it does eat up time. But that's all part of my service. Some people don't want just some stranger walking in their house, fixing something and running out the door and say, pay me money. And that's not how I operate. I'm not just an in and out and you get whatever I decide you get. No, there's enough communication to the point where what you get is what you decided and you know you decided it. So does that make sense? I also don't stick to my estimates. You will hear me say or read that I've written somewhere that my estimate is not a contract. It's more of an agreement. And if it all goes super well and smooth, it will cost you less. I'm not just going to be like, oh, I got it done quickly, so the rest is my profit. That's just not how I operate. A lot of people do. And you can ask people their structure. And if they're not just transparent with it, well, some of these are like for-profit companies. They need the profit. Mine's